Hey, Instagram. So, hey, here we go. Here we go. Absolutely. So this is welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. One of my favorite things to do in the world is to get online and share my information as a winemaker and a vineyard manager with 25 years of experience producing wines. I love this stuff. I can't stop doing it. In fact, it was 2 minutes before I was supposed to go on. I couldn't stop myself. So I come on just about every day, Monday through Friday, 4:45. We hang out. We do a little bit of talking. We have some fun until 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, the real show starts. 5 o'clock, I will begin the actual formal presentation of at least one wine, generally from the Miller Family Wine Company. So Day Drinking with Wes Hagen is brought to you by a number of different folks. Some of them pay me, some of them don't. I love to talk about the Miller Family Wine Company because they pay my mortgage. The Miller family has been farming in Central Coast of California since 1871, which is amazing. And not only that, but I've been working for them for 5 years. I've been making wine for a long, long time. Tammy Herron. Now, here's the deal. I'm all about, and Elaine and Scott are back from Vegas. We were just talking about Vegas with one of my good friends, Master Sommelier Will Costello, and we are going to have a party in Vegas. Once this is all over, Vegas is going to need our help. So I got some ideas on how to help all the people that rely on hospitality, on food, on wine, on service. And my first idea is let's all get to Vegas as soon as we can because they're going to need our love. Second idea, let's get rid of that stupid effing law that takes a portion of your tips as a tax, because I don't think tips should be taxed. I already got taxed on the money that I'm giving you for taking care of me. So why in the world would a gift? I can give if I'm a millionaire, I can give each one of my kids $10,000 a year tax free. But I can't give a server $25 on, a $250 tab. I don't get it. So as we start working towards bringing this stuff back to really focus in on what it means to come together at table again, especially at places that cook us food, let's really start focusing in and thinking, how important is it to take care of the people that serve us? I also think that anyone who's delivering right now, UPS, basically UPS, FedEx, the mail service, USPS, all of them should immediately get a $10,000 bonus right over the top. In fact, maybe even all essential employees that are risking their lives to get us our food and everything else, maybe those folks should be getting a $10,000 bonus too. One-time bonus, 10 grand, and then at least a 5-year, basically a 5-year cessation maybe of tip taxes. And then we look back at tip taxes and understand. Roy knows some stuff. Yeah, tip compliance. Boo. Roy knows some stuff. A Bear fan, that's all good. I don't know. You got to tell me how your draft went. I didn't notice how the Bears go, but I do love your city, Chicago, far more than I love your Bears. I am a San Francisco 49ers fan. I hope that doesn't cause some people to stop watching us tonight. But I'm really excited to share with you tonight the way that this show is going to go tonight. We're going to hang out. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to welcome some people like Becky, Hazard Pay, absolutely. Julie, we got Beth, we got Phil. Phil's in the hairs. We're all yes. And Phil, we did lose Larry Sarloos. So Larry was the owner of Sarloos and Sons. His son Keith has been a good friend of mine. Introduced me to Reddit, which is kind of a funny joke about, basically he's wasted, 4 hours of my time every day since we met. But Larry did pass. He basically had a horse accident and fell down a cliff in Santa Barbara. An amazing man. And man, I am actually absolutely bummed to not have him in my life. When I left my original, I've been a production winemaker and a vineyard manager here in Santa Barbara County, especially for the folks on Instagram. I want to make sure you guys understand what's kind of going on. So I'm a winemaker and a vineyard manager. I've been working in Santa Barbara County wine for about 25 years. And when I left my, the weird thing about working in a multi-generational business like I did at my parents' vineyard in the Santa Rita Hills, Santa Barbara County. Welcome, Marcia and Brett. So nice to have you back. Brett, I'm going through my mind. I am going to write that little short story for you, and I'm trying to decide what the subject will be, but I've got some ideas, so that'll be fun. But as far as the Sarloos story, when I left my family vineyard and winemaking job at Clopepe Vineyards, where I'd worked for almost 20 years, I left. I was devastated. I felt like I couldn't understand what I was worth in the business. I felt like I was an industry leader. I wrote the petitions that established the Santa Rita Hills, Happy Canyon of Santa Barbara, Ballard Canyon, and a fourth AVA that I'm working on right now that should be approved. It's already gone from TTB to Treasury, which is the last step, which means I hopefully will get paid as a consultant. And that is actually going to come out sometime very soon. Yes. Nancy, have I seen your private message? If I haven't, I will go and I will check after, and I will make sure that I give you an answer. So I really appreciate you reaching out and letting me know. Larry reached out to me when I left Clopepi, and he told me on the phone, I want you to know that if you leave Santa Barbara County for Paso, for Sonoma, for Napa, for the Willamette Valley of Oregon, for Washington, wherever you choose to go make wine, you can. But Santa Barbara is going to be a better place if you stay here. And what I thought, he took me to lunch and basically gave me a pep talk. And I mean, who does that in an industry? I thought he was going to offer me a job, to be perfectly frank. He's got his job is taken care of. He's got enough kids that his kids all have a very important job at Sarlis and Sons. As a result, though, he was telling me that I could actually probably get a salary far beyond what I had originally imagined. And so as a result, he probably got me and helped me with my new job with the Miller Family Wine Company. If their Miller family's watching, sorry, but to basically tell them that I thought that I was deserving a pretty significant salary. They matched that salary. They've been keeping me on their payroll now for 5 years. So the Miller family, who are they? Well, they own Bien Nacido Vineyard. They own the Solomon Hills Vineyard, and they own the French Camp Vineyard. So two of the greatest vineyards, bar none, in Santa Maria Valley, and one of the amazing vineyards up in Paso Robles Highlands District. Where's the Paso Robles Highlands District? Well, interestingly, there's 12 American viticultural areas in the Paso Robles area. And as a result, it's very hard to know them all. But there's this little area south of Shandon and east of Creston called the Paso Robles Highlands District. It's the highest average elevation of any AVA, American viticultural area, in Paso Robles. And it grows amazing Zinfandel, probably the best Petit Syrah in the state. It also grows some incredible Lagrine. It grows good Chardonnay. It grows amazing Cabernet Sauvignon, great Merlot, good Cabernet Franc. So all these things are part of what we do at the Miller Family Wine Company. And what we call this whole thing is the Miller Family Wine School. And the idea is we get together during sparkling isolation, and I call it sparkling isolation because it has to be in Courante, France, for it to be a proper quarantine. So we are actually talking a little bit about wine, inject a little bit of humanism into here, like how we can take care of each other, how we can trust science through this, how we can look at peer-reviewed results to understand where we are, what we're doing, when it's safe to leave the house, when we should. I don't really talk about the virus. You guys can get that information from much more helpful people. I'm a winemaker, and quite honestly, if you start taking quarantine and virus advice from a winemaker, that's a problem. I read, I pay attention, I know what I'm talking about when I can, but in the end, I want to make sure that you know where you can get accurate information, and I'm sure you do. So as we talk about this, really important. And Jan's in the house, and Jim's here, and Brett and Marcia and Julie and Becky. And I agree, Becky, the people that are working in the grocery store should all get probably 10 grand too. I mean, for F's sake, I mean, if Ruth Chris can sign up and get a bunch of millions of dollars, and I have friends who work for Ruth Chris that have been laid off or furloughed. So I wish some of that money would have immediately gone to them, and they still haven't given the money back. So I feel kind of weird about that. But at the same time, if we're giving millions and millions away to small business, why don't we go straight to the source and find the people that are risking their life right now, taking care of us, and give them a little bit of money? To close my commentary, by the way, if you've never watched me speak, it's basically ADHD theater. I'm fairly performative. I'm fairly entertaining, but you have to kind of basically ride the wave that you're given, which is basically I'm going to be all over the place. But it's amazing. Very often I do actually come full circle to explain this stuff. So you're going to get a high energy, very fractured but interesting presentation on wine, wine history, everything you need to know about wine. If you go back, we have all the shows that we've been doing for 3 weeks, either on Facebook, Wes Hagen, or you can also look up J. Wilkes Wines SB or Wines Santa Barbara, and it'll always be up there. And we also have YouTube channels. We have a J. Wilkes YouTube channel and a Miller Family Wine channel. And on top of it all, we have the Miller Family Wine Company website, millerfamilywines.com, where all the wines that we're talking about are on incredibly special sale right now. And if you're looking for some incredibly good wine with incredibly good accolades for an incredibly good price, I would recommend that you go over to Miller Family Wine Company and understand that when you use the promo code DD50, and that's day drinking 50. Oh, by the way, we're day drinking and it's almost 5 o'clock, so let's get on it. This is a shot of Fortaleza tequila, my favorite silver tequila. Dean Green came on and challenged me. Well, I came on early by mistake. I was setting up all my, I've got this camera that's going on Instagram. I've got this camera that's going on J. Wilkes Facebook page, this camera that's going on Wes Hagen Facebook page. So I do feel a little bit like Ron Burgundy looking from side to side, trying to get everybody involved. So Babcock Winery. So thank you. Whoever's watching at Babcock, let me know if you have an opportunity. Babcock is where I started my original wine journey professionally. In 1996, Brian Babcock gave me a job when I asked him at the Hitching Post, hey, I really want to make Pinot Noir for a living. He said, you know, there are drugs you can take to prevent that. And I said, tried them all in college. I'm ready to rock. Gave me a job, minimum wage, taught me to make wine, showed me how the chemical bond changes during primary fermentation, taught me about malolactic fermentation, gave me a week and a hammer and told me to go break down barrels and put them back together. So I learned how to break down barrels and put them together. So I guess, Cooper can be my middle name now. And I'm extraordinary. And Wendy's in the house. We got Vin Voyagers in the house. Oh, this is awesome. We really are picking up some extra people over here. So that's awesome. Tammy Herron, one of my favorite sommeliers in the world. Hello, beautiful. If you don't know Tammy Herron, she was a rose princess. And I grew up in La Cañada, Pasadena, California. And if you don't know how important that is in the context of Southern California being a rose princess, you are awesome. Beckman Vineyards, so stoked you guys are here too. I always say Beckman, for the last 20 years, has been hitting Rhone varieties and a number of other wines, Sauvignon Blanc, their Cabernet, all their wines from their Ballard Canyon property. Man, they have been hitting on all cylinders. When people always say I need 5 wineries to go visit when you're in Santa Barbara County, I will always bring up Beckman because I think, Michael, has been involved, Michael Seguin, has his own winery, Cayena, as well as the entire Beckman family. The connection through the Hitching Post and everything else. It's just amazing. So I love the fact that you guys are here. Vintage Buzz, welcome, welcome. Karen Will, Boots and Whiskey. I love that. Wait, I didn't drink. Day drinking, baby. Day drinking. Let's get it on. Come on. I love to know where you are and what you're drinking at all times. Folks that have been watching the show for 3 weeks are getting used to it. But I always love to know what it is that people are drinking out there. I mean, we're basically having a good time. We're trying to pass some time. We're trying to be kind to each other. We're trying to, be gentle and have a great moment in this historic sort of moment for American history. We've got the Juicy Life Company. So welcome. And Jay Flash, Jolie Ellman on Instagram. Who frickin' knew? But Botanical Notes. Love me some Botanical Notes. We can talk about Linnaeus all day long. One of my favorite folks. We got Girthquake in the house. Siempre taking Baja. I know who that is. So how rad that you guys are all jumping in. Love it. Right. Miss playing with you at Clo Pepe, man. I miss working with the fruit there. Yep. And Roy's in the house. We got Eddie Gray on Instagram. Yes. And this is my first night, Mike at the beach. Awesome. Vineyard Mama, I would say that is probably one of my favorite handles I've heard in the Vintage Buzz. Coralejo Reposado. I like Coralejo, but I'll tell you what, I like Coralejo Silver a lot for blending just with lime juice, a classic lime juice and a little bit of Cointreau. But when it comes to sipping, big sipping, like alcohol industry sipping. So if you don't know, I used to be a high school English teacher. I taught at Moore Junior High School in Redlands, California. And I also taught for 3 years at Eisenhower High School in in Rialto, California, which is incredible because actually Eisenhower High School is probably my choice for where the craziest thing is. They gave me a classroom and I went out to the classroom, and this was before I was really a dedicated 49ers fan. In the concrete on the step leading into my classroom, not ADA compliant, my wife would be very disappointed, was the words Ronnie Lott and the date. And I don't quite remember what the date was, but when that concrete was setting, Ronnie Lott put his name into the concrete, and he was playing for Eisenhower High School, which is traditionally one of the probably top 20 football programs in the country. Yes, it's not in Texas. Yes, it's not in Florida. California, Southern California football can actually move out pretty well. So in the end, I ended up teaching at a high school where Ronnie Lott went, and now number 42. How can you argue with anyone who's number 42? When my wife was 42, I bought her a first edition copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because, yeah. I also got her a towel with that basically had embroidered in it, "Don't Panic," which I love too. It is 5 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. 5 o'clock means I will slow down talking about and welcoming people and answering questions. So I'm stoked you're here. I'm glad all the Instagram folks are joining. I'm glad everyone here. We've got a Levy 2007 Levy Pinot Noir. Wow, that was my friends Ariel and Angela, who were my first interns in Santa Barbara at Colopepi. That's awesome. We are doing a Pinot Noir today, Hillary, and I am answering just the last few questions that I see. Oh, it's Wes. Okay, my Instagram is Wes_Hagen. Yeah, social media. I'm a busy guy. I don't really worry too much about but I guess I should actually pay attention. So thank you, Jolie. Now I know. You must have me in stereo. That must be incredibly annoying. No, I'm just kidding. Can be annoying sometimes, but not too often. Well, I'm full of tequila. Dean Green got on early, and I was messing around with my camera, and I mistakenly went on, and we did a shot of tequila. So I'm now 2 shots in, and I'm also drinking one of my favorite new beers, which is called the Foggy Geezer, which some might suggest describes me pretty well, although I feel really damn young, but I'm actually just turned 51. This is a collab between War Pigs, Three Floyds, and Mikkeller. I know a lot about Mikkeller, drink a lot of Mikkellers. This is a New England style IPA, an NE IPA, and it is frickin' delicious. Right before I came on, I was having some issues with my blood sugar going low. So I love those moments because I got to eat a granola bar, which is as sweet as anything that I get. And I get to drink a hazy because hazies tend to have more carbohydrates than any other wine. It's 5 o'clock though, which means we are jumping into our tasting. So at 5 o'clock, I will stop welcoming people and asking questions. So really do focus on what we're doing, and then we take a break between when we taste the wine and on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays when I give you guys a little bit of wine content, and you guys are in for a treat tonight because the Miller Family Wine Company and Day Drinking with Wes Hagen is going to present basically the last 5 items that have fundamentally changed winemaking as a result of technology. So yesterday, we talked about SO2, we talked about clay Kvevery and as well as clay vessels for carrying wine around. We talked about cedar boats and the Phoenicians and the Canaanites. Then we talked about the first century of the Common Era and the Gauls creating barrels for moving wine around, oak barrels in the first century. During the time of Julius Caesar, wine was actually being put in hogshead-styled oak barrels. Then we talked about the compound microscope, Leeuwenhoek and Pasteur, how that changed. And then we talked about prohibition and how it pushed the reset button on California wine, because instead of being anecdotal and making wine like our father and our grandfather and our grandmother and our great-grandmother made wine, we actually pushed the reset button. We forgot how to make wine. And so when we went back in after prohibition, we took a scientific pursuit. Instead of just saying, oh, well, my dad always punched down for 3 days, I don't know why. We actually started studying wine at UC Davis and eventually Cal State Fresno and really changed wine. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about the last 4 top 10 technologies within wine. And we're moving chronologically from 3500 BCE until basically yesterday. So that'll be fun. And then the wine for today, we're going to be drinking a 2018 Pinot Noir from J. Wilkes. And J. Wilkes is a winery that started with Jeff Wilkes, who sold grapes for the Miller Family Wine Company before it was the Miller Family Wine Company. We've just rebranded the company and using the Miller family, which is awesome. So basically, Jeff Wilkes was selling wine out of Bien Nacido Vineyard and Solomon Hills, and probably for a few years at least at French Camp Vineyard. So he sold fruit. He was a fruit salesman, but he would also drive up and down the state of California learning about new viticultural techniques that people were applying in Sonoma, Napa, Paso Robles, anywhere where there was something really cool happening. He was checking it out and bringing that back to the vineyard management crews at Bien Nacido and Solomon Hills, which ended up being fantastic because not only Solomon Hills, which is one of my favorite vineyards in the world, has become increasingly important and increasingly vaunted, but Bien Nacido, oh my gosh. So you may or may not know the Bien Nacido vineyard, planted in 1973, purchased in 1969, and the completion of the purchase from the Miller family of Rancho Tepisque in 1969, the year I was born, has now basically created this 900-acre planted vineyard with lots of other acres in avocados. They actually grow some of the best avocados in the world. But the Bien Nacido vineyard currently is the most vineyard-designated vineyard in the world. No other vineyard produces more labeled wine that is labeled as a vineyard designate. Au Bon Climat, Pinot Noir 2018, Bien Nacido Vineyard. So that begs the question, is this a Bien Nacido Pinot Noir? Contractually, I'm not supposed to really answer that question. What I can say is we don't buy a lot of fruit from other vineyards, sometimes a little Sierra Madre, sometimes a little Gary, some really, really incredible vineyards from within the Santa Barbara County. When the fruit is hanging, it's perfect, and the price is right, we jump in and grab that fruit. So instead of making, we don't make vineyard designated wines, but you don't have to pay for vineyard designated wines. We make wines of vineyard designated quality that represent a place, but not a site. And nothing in our portfolio of our regular wines is over $30 retail. We do make a $50 special reserve cab that we sell down in our tasting room that is on the website. And if you order any J. Wilkes wines right now, you're going to get 20% off over 6 bottles, and you're going to get 25% off a case. So I try to make everything during this presentation at least 80 to 90% educational and content driven. And then I will once in a while insert the opportunity that you guys can go buy some wine. So my boss doesn't think I'm just day drinking, that I'm actually, basically connecting with you guys. And thanks so much. I actually looked into it, and we've sold over 1,500 bottles of wine on this show alone in 3 weeks. So thank you. Thank you so much for jumping in. I know that we're giving you guys a lot of really good deals, but it's really, really important to our company right now. Obviously, we're trying to keep everybody employed, everybody, so obviously if you go check out millerfamilywines.com or jwilkes.com, please do. And if anything drives your imagination, we're in a delivery economy, and make sure you take care of all your drivers. I've been giving my my mailman basically at least a bottle of wine every week. Some weeks I've been giving him 2. His wife's in love with Chardonnay and has become a big fan of the J. Wilkes stuff. J. Wilkes corks, Diem. These are special corks that are made in a laboratory with real cork. So they take all the parts of the cork that weren't used in the standard punched cork. They grind it out. They put it in a hyperbaric chamber, and they use a proprietary method to take all the potential cork taint out of the wine, and out of the cork, and they put the cork back together with a food grade organic polymer. So this looks like a cork. It's made out of cork, but it functions with the efficiency and the cleanliness of a corkscrew, of a screw cap. So incredible technology, absolutely love it. And let's jump in and taste some 2018 Pinot Noir and talk a little bit about Santa Maria Valley Pinot Noir, a wine predominantly from our estate vineyards with probably a little bit of inclusion. And I have, and I also noticed that Ian is on. Ian has the job that Jeff Wilkes used to have, and I normally don't talk about folks who are coming in and out during this tasting so it doesn't get too drawn out. But thank you, Ian, for being here, and thank you, Ian, for doing basically a wonderful job of selling all the wonderful fruit. If you need 10 tons from Bien Nacido, or if you need 10 tons of Chardonnay, or a Petit Syrah or something, I can help you get in touch with Ian. So we've got a beautiful clean glass that I just polished. This is a Pinot Noir glass from Riedel. It's a lovely shape for really pushing it around. And one thing I like about it, if your doctor says you can only have one glass of wine, you can fit almost a whole damn bottle of wine in this. Now, young wine. Because it's young wine, I am not going to, see, where did I put? I thought I had, give me a sec. I thought I had an aerator here, and I'm sure as soon as I pour this, I will see my aerator. Screw it, no worries, that's what swirling is for. So I'm going to put a little bit of wine right here in this glass. And then why do we swirl? Why do we do this? Why, what up? Am I just showing off? No, no, no. What I'm doing is I'm aerating the wine. I'm exciting the wine on a molecular basis. I'm encouraging the wine to pick up some dissolved oxygen from the atmosphere. Why? Because dissolved oxygen works just like in wine as it does in gasoline. Horrible example, but gasoline doesn't explode. The vapors from gasoline explode. So what do we do to them? We carburate them. We put as much oxygen as possible to give the fire the fuel it needs. Now, obviously, we don't want to catch this on fire, and no wine has ever caught on fire. I'm sorry, Pliny the Elder, but you were lying when you were talking about Falernian, if you know anything about Roman wine history. But what I'm doing here is I'm exciting the wine as much as I can and drawing as much dissolved oxygen into the wine. This wine has been in it was in a barrel, then it was in a tank, and now it's in a glass. I've got to wake it up. We always want to wake up a wine gently, just like a dog or a kid. You want to basically make sure that you don't shock the wine. So let's give the wine some air and talk a little bit about what we smell and what we taste. And if you're interested in Santa Maria Valley wine, you're incredibly smart, because I think Santa Maria Valley, Santa Rita Hills, all these areas in Santa Barbara County that are famous for wine production, specifically cool climate production, Pinot Noir Chardonnay, produce some of the most beautiful and elegant wines in the world. You get the fruit of California and the complexity, maybe of Burgundy, all in one wine that's going to be traditionally about half the price of Napa Sonoma and significantly less than Premier Cru or Grand Cru Burgundy. Smells to me like ripe cherries and crushed, almost like raspberry compote. Is it jammy? It's on the edge because it has incredible fruit. So what I'm looking for in Santa Maria Valley is elegance, restraint, femininity. I'm looking for cherry fruit. I'm looking for a little baking spice. I'm looking for a little tiny bit as the wine ages. I would expect it to pick up a note that's not unlike tomato skin, or maybe a little tiny bit when the wine is really, really old. It smells a little like a Bloody Mary, as Jolie Ellman agreed with me just a couple yesterday, I think, when she was drinking some 2005 Bienvenido J. Wilkes wine that Jeff Wilkes actually made. Jealous, by the way. So in a young, vibrant wine, a very cool vintage, like 2018. So 15, 16, 17, warm, warmer, warmer. And when 18 hit, we wondered if that trend continued. Wow, man, these wines are going to be ripe. 18 completely reversed it. 17, we had days in, atypical days in July and August that were up in the 80s and 90s. Crazy thing about 2018, we didn't have one day in Santa Maria Valley that I can remember where we went over 80 degrees or around that in the entire months of July and August. Our high temperatures were actually lower than the our high temperature. Yeah, that's correct. Our high temperatures were actually lower than the low temperatures in many areas of Texas. So the hottest we got during the sunniest days in July and August in 18 and 19. 19 is a very similar vintage than 18. Boom, boom. We basically got through an entire summer without any heat spikes. Pretty atypical. In fact, we just had a day last week that was hotter than our entire summer, any day during the official sort of July, August summer last year. Cool stuff. So I got all that crushed fruit. And believe me, even if you're making comments and I'm not commenting on them, I am seeing them. So thank you guys. And as soon as we get through this wine, we'll take a little time to welcome all of you guys and make sure you guys all feel the love. Effusively fruity, beautiful, cool climate vintage, dark color, richness, a lot of red fruit on the attack. So I like to say when you put the wine, we swirl it, We smell it. About 90% of everything that happens in a wine is perceptible in the nose and then the mouth. I like to look at harmony and roundness between the attack, the mid palate, and the finish. Attack is what happens in the first 3 seconds of the wine's in my mouth. The mid palate is a couple seconds, depending on how long I'm going to enjoy and savor the wine in my mouth. The mid palate is really how the wine hits the entire covers all the papillae of my tongue. It hits every one of those, 5 to 6 flavor receptors on every papillae. And then basically as we finish, you lose a little character of the wine on the front of your tongue, and you taste it a little bit more on the back of your tongue. You get a persistent finish. So I like Pinot Noir that has maybe a 3 to 4 second persistent finish. So I'm really tasting the flavor for at least 4 or 5 seconds after I swallow the wine. That's the finish, and that's what we really want. Now, normally I don't drink wine as a cocktail. I drink beer. Day drinking. So stoked to be here. Or, I like to drink tequila. Just enough to get a nice flavor. But I drink wine sitting down with food. So beer standing up, wine at table with food, spirits between table and the floor, or bed, depending on the night. It's very, very important for me that wine be considered a food. And I don't even think of wine sometimes even as a drink. I think of it as salt and pepper on the table. I mean, if you've ever been to Italy, if you've ever been to a lunch or a dinner in Italy where every single person over 13 or 14 years old is drinking wine with food, it's not about cocktails, alcohol, inebriation. It's about, this is the way we do things. So I think of wine as a very important food. I think of wine as something that I put on the table. I always like to say that wine is an investment to keep the people we love at table for an extra hour every day. And in a culture where we're living right now, where we're kind of stuck together, or we're stuck without each other, well, we can reach out and spend a little extra time tasting wine, talking about wine, and engaging with each other. How important is that? I love how wine brings people together. So that's exactly what we're looking at. The 2018 vintage, as we said, cool. The soil of most of these vineyards is going to be elder sandy loam, deep loamy sand. It's going to have some influence from calcareous shale. It's going to have some influence from schist. It's going to have some influence even from limestone. And as a result, you're going to get high calcium content. Calcium is going to influence the wine and the grapes thusly. It is going to thicken the skins of the grapes, because grapes' skin thickness is determined by exchangeable calcium at the level of the roots and how much calcium they can absorb from the roots. And of course, in the Santa Maria Valley, Santa Rita Hills as well, we have incredibly high exchangeable calcium rates. So what does that do? That thickens the skins of the grape. So Pinot Noir grapes are so freaking tiny. They're like half the size of my pinky nail. And so as a result, when you only get a 10% increase in the thickness of the skins of small berries, the actual reduction of skin to or juice to skin ratio is incredible. It's actually exponential. So as skins thicken, you lose juice. So from a winemaking perspective, when you're making Pinot Noir from Santa Maria Valley, or especially Santa Rita Hills, which has the thickest skins I've ever seen, you're losing sometimes almost half a barrel of wine per ton, because you're losing all the juice, because a ton of grapes isn't a lot of juice, it's a lot of skin. But when there's a lot of skin, there's the color, there's the flavor. Between the outer skin of the grape, the exocarp, and the inner sort of membrane of the grape is called the mesocarp. Between those two are these amazing sort of vacuoles that are just packed with phenolic and polyphenolic compounds that not only make wine delicious, not only give it its color, but actually help us live longer. Resveratrol, boom, from the skins of grapes. Alcohol used judiciously increases human lifespan 5 to 7 years on average. So if you talk to most reasonable doctors that aren't Muslims or Mormons, they will probably tell you that a 1 glass of red wine a day for women and 2 glasses of red wine a day for men, because 2 glasses actually increases breast cancer rate, which is kind of a bummer. So be careful. But I want to say that as long as you are having a moderate consumption of red wine, you can expect it not only to make you happy, not only to like light up your head in a fun way, not only to make, you know, your shows on Netflix a little funnier, a little more poignant, but it will help you live longer. And why don't we want to live longer? Let's all do it. And it's important for us to be careful, to be consistent in our drinking, to not allow our drinking to impact, you know, the safety of others and or interpersonal relationships, which it can. You have to be careful, but it's also a great way after a hard day of work, either remotely or coming home from work. A glass of wine resets me. It gives me the ability to breathe. It gives me the ability to relax. It gives me the ability to treat the people around me better. And if you want to say that you're a nice person, but when you drink, you become mean, I'm calling BS on you. I honestly believe that wine is a prism that basically broadens what we put into it. If you're a jerk, you become jerkier. If you are a mensch, if you're kind, you may become kinder. And my father, Don Hagen, one of my favorite people in the world, but he gets rather emotional and weepy after the third or fourth glass of wine. And I love that about him because it exhibits his actual character. Wine brings our natural character out in us. Alcohol, when they say in vino veritas, the Latin means in wine there is truth. I think what they're saying is whatever character you have, that character will be intensified as a result of alcohol. So when people say, oh, you know, I'm a really nice guy, but when I drink, I'm kind of a jerk. No, dude, you're a jerk. You can pretend you're not when you're sober, but when you're drunk or drinking, you have no ability to stop yourself from being like that. All right, so that was a bit of an aside. I apologize. Remember, I warned you at the very beginning, this is ADHD theater. So again, performative, without a net, without notes, and I'm coming completely off. And I actually have to look at myself in 3 different cameras and actually maintain some amount of distance and self-conscious narrative. So I feel a little bit like Bugs Bunny when he looks at the camera and starts talking to the camera. That's self-conscious narrative. So I kind of have to run off that, but that has nothing to do with wine. So let's talk about a little bit about the flavor and the mouthfeel of this beautiful 2018 Santa Maria Valley Pinot Noir. I would say medium plus body. It definitely has a lot of juiciness and a lot more fruit than the 17. 17 might have been a little more, and I'm going to try to show you the color if I can. We always put it behind a white background. Unfortunately, all of my backgrounds right now are covered in writing. So I would say the 18, because of the long, cool hang time, we actually had more color and more flavor, more juiciness than I'm used to. 17 was probably, because of a little bit of more heat, it was a little bit riper, but it wasn't as juicy and as fruity. But as a result, it showed a little bit more early complexity. Because this wine is a little more dense and fruity and juicy, I think this primary character, which means it smells like fermentation, like blackberry pie, I think this fermentative aroma, this primary aroma, is going to last 2 or 3 years in this wine. And then it's going to start losing a little bit of its primary fruit and the complexity is going to emerge. So if this is fruitiness and this is complexity, as fruitiness subsides, complexity emerges. So the question is, how fruity do you love your wine? If you love your wine effusive and fruity and jammy, you should be drinking 14 to 15% alcohol wines within 2 years of vintage date. So if you have a 17 wine, you should have already drank it. If you have an 18 wine, it's time. If you like a wine that exhibits a little more earthiness, a little more sort of, if you're in your Pinot Noir, you had a wine from Burgundy that showed you tar, leather, violets, and all these wonderful things, or a Cabernet or a Bordeaux that has cigar box and cassis and all these flavors. It depends on what you want wine to do. If you want wine to be a fun, fruity beverage, drink them young. If you want a wine that exhibits an immense amount of complexity, if you buy a wine between $25 and $35, that wine should lay down for 5 years and show complexity and show some character that it didn't show when it's young. Wine is a lot like human beings. as we age, we compensate with character and complexity. So if you like to drink them young. It's like dating them young. They're going to look better in a bathing suit, but they're going to suck at conversation, right? You know, I mean, if I, for some reason, was a complete, anyways, and I wanted to reset my life and start dating someone who is very young, I would expect them maybe to be more youthful, more vibrant, but for F's sake, they are not going to be able to talk about Nietzsche. They're not going to be able to talk about Joseph Campbell. They're not going to be able to talk about humanism and Steven Pinker and all the things that I love. They're not going to be able to talk about humanism and wine history and all these things because they will be young and ignorant. So if you, and I don't want to say drinking young wines is like drinking them young and ignorant, but they are young. It's not like they're ignorant. They're delicious. We love wine. I mean, wine, and 90% of the wines purchased in this country are consumed within 48 hours. So for me to make wines that age gracefully is for me to look for such a small part of the people that actually drink wine. It's almost counterintuitive, and it almost is a waste of my time. So there you go. That's what I think. This wine, I can't wait to get some accolades on this wine. I think we actually already got a 92 in the tasting panel for this one. But gosh, I mean, I can't imagine anyone would stick their nose in this one and not think, oh, wow, yum. How wonderful. It's juicy, effusive, but it also has a capacity to age for 10 years. I have no doubt in my mind that this 2018 wine will be alive and well in 2028 when we're looking back and thinking, isn't it awesome? We all have the antibodies for this damn COVID thing, and we can all go out and love each other and hug each other and sit at table and make some jokes and hug each other. Hugs. I'm missing hugs. I'm missing touching. I'm missing all the things that we do, at table, looking across the table, having fun. It's a wonderful thing. So 2018 J. Wilkes Pinot Noir. It's a $30 retail wine. I think you guys, if you ordered, I think 6 bottles, it goes down to like 26. And if you order, if you order a case of this wine, it would go down to about $22. For a $20 Pinot Noir, which is about, if you get a really, really damn good deal on Meiomi, that's what you would get. But the difference is if you want Meiomi, that's what you want. But if you want a Pinot Noir that represents the quality character of 100% Pinot Noir, with elegance and restraint, a little bit of femininity, I think you'll love this wine. I love this wine. I'm sure it has nothing to do with all the tequila I drink. Day drinking, baby. Day drinking. So glad to have you guys here. Cool. So I'm going to take about 2 minutes, and I'm going to make sure if anyone asks some questions, absolutely. Fred Carbone, who I'm thinking maybe we're going to taste your wine basically on the show. Fred is a neighbor of mine. He brought over some Viognier that he actually grew in his backyard in Santa Maria, California. And I'm chomping at the bit to get into it, but I want to share my thoughts about those wines as we go forward. And yes, I have a problem with being philosophical. Yes. Cody, welcome. So glad you're here. And Bridget and Jane and Tony and Dave, thank you for drinking that 13. I hope you're enjoying it. That was a wine made by Vidal Perez, who was the winemaker until 2014 at J. Wilkes. I came in 2015. Linmar Estate, Hillary. I'm loving that. That sounds amazing. And then we've got some folks coming in. Appreciate that. We've got Christy and Marla and Phil, Beth and Anne-Marie and Michelle Shin. Thank you for the book. I got it. I got the brand new edition, and it is somewhere where I can't reach it. But I got the brand new edition of Wine Folly, which I'm super excited about. And I was thumbing through it today. There's some really, really good stuff in there. Michelle, that was so kind of you to send me that book. And by the way, if anyone sends me booze, I drink it on camera. So I am an unapologetic shill for any booze that comes my way. And for the books that come my way, absolutely. And on top of all of it, Repour. So I'll give 30 seconds on Repour. Repour is a technology. This is a wine stopper, basically filled with a proprietary material that absorbs oxygen. So you pop this on a bottle that you open, and that bottle will be good for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I've done the research, and I've worked with a master sommelier who's done the same, and he agrees with me. This little stopper at about $2 each will basically keep a wine fresh and clean much longer. If you're taking 2 weeks to drink a bottle of wine, we got to talk. Now, if I took you over and showed you my counter, I've got like 17 bottles of wine open under Repour, and all those wines from the last like 3 weeks that I've been tasting are still good. I can match anything in my house. Tonight I'm doing fried shrimp and sweet potato fries in the house. I'm still wondering, what am I going to do with fried shrimp and sweet potato fries? My guess is probably Pinot Blanc, because I love Pinot Blanc, but these Repours are awesome. There's a link on my Wes Hagen Facebook page that you can get a 10% discount on these Repour pours. My recommendation is when you open a Repour, you take a Sharpie and you write the date on it. And if you're moving it from bottle to bottle, think about 2 weeks. But if it's in one bottle, it can go up to a month. So Repour, sort of cool. Love the technology, and it's doing really, really great stuff for helping me keep these wines nice and fresh. Archeo Vine, Robin O'Connor says hello from Greenwich Village in New York City. I was supposed to be in New Jersey and New York City like a week ago. I missed Arizona. I missed Vegas. I missed OKC. I missed Missouri. I missed New York City. I missed New Jersey. So I'm already like many states behind in my travels. If you don't know, I'm not only a winemaker, but a traveling salesman for the Miller Family Wine Company. So I normally do about 25 to 30 states a year and maybe a couple hundred markets a year. So it's really, really important, really, really important when for me to get into the market and share these wines with people. And I do feel a little hamstrung sitting here in my house. I'm also kind of sequestering a little deeper even than most people would actually be doing, because I'm immunosuppressed. I am a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic, which basically makes my chance of dying of this disease go up about 20x. 10.9% of type 1 diabetics that have been checked have died from this disease. So 11% mortality is a little bit different than 1% mortality. So I'm digging in a little deeper and wearing that mask a little bit longer. But wine protects me. I'm just kidding. It is not a safety issue, but it makes me feel like it is, because I love the flavor, taste, and how wine makes us feel. Cool. All right. So Will PT and Jolie and Archeo Vine, Joe Estrada, Back to Behavior, E11 Wine, AP Vin, what up? Used to love growing grapes for you guys. Tammy's still in the house. Jesse's still in the house. Tammy's still in the house. Becky Banning's in the house. Welcome. We got Dom over on Instagram. Wine Militia's in the house. Welcome. I am willing to fight for you guys because I'm down for the Wine Militia. Smoky Sauvignon. Sounds awesome. Fumé Blanc, right? I mean, does that mean Smoky Sauvignon? Vintage Buzz. We got Kifton. We've got Kiki. We've got Gabo. We got Joe Estrada. Professor West. That's very kind of you to say. I do not have a master's degree or a doctorate in any of this stuff. So this is J Mac. Very nice to have you. And JJ, A-Love, and Wendy, and Vintage Buzz. How's Orca? 72 degrees today. Light winds. Absolutely freaking gorgeous. And here I am inside, not being able to go out and throw frisbees at chains. One of my great passions besides beer, wine, spirits, and talking about it is frisbee golf, which is stupid, almost juvenile. But believe me, frisbee golfers are far less specifically weird and stony than you think. Here for the vintage Grateful Dead recordings. My gosh, then I should be playing 5877 when I was working out with my producer for the show, my wife Chanda, who is actually going to come in and actually, no big surprise when I had Chanda co-host a show, we had the most hits of anything because she's a gorgeous, 6-foot redhead. Currently, she was blonde when I met her, but we won't talk about how her hair is changing. she's amazing, and we had more hits when she was on than ever. We're going to do a wine coming up, and I can check my dates. Next Tuesday, Chanda will be on the show, and we will be drinking a 2013 Chanda's Reserve. Yes, I was at Clopepe for 20 years. We never had a wine that mentioned Chanda. I was at J. Wilkes for less than a year, and we already had a wine with Chanda's name on it. How rad is that? So if you've never talked to my wife, she was a production winemaker for 15 years, and she's incredible. She's beautiful, and she's got legs up to here, which I don't understand, but I don't know why she married me. How stoked am I? That's freaking awesome. Awesome. And Dawn is in the house. So good to see you, Dawn and Mark. So let's jump in. We've got it's about halfway through the show. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're talking about. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Remember, Mondays we talk about general wine information and knowledge and education. On Wednesdays, we talk about stuff that's a little bit more focused on viticulture and winemaking. And then on Friday, open time. Like we might do a tequila night. I'm in trouble. I probably won't be able to talk more than an hour. We're also going to be talking a little bit about beer, spirits. Super exciting. This Friday, we're having Vince from V is for Vino, the #1 wine show on Amazon Prime. We're doing a collab on Friday, same time, 5 o'clock. And we'll be on a little bit early to ask some questions and get some input. And then we're doing basically 10 things you don't know about wine and why they actually matter. So it's going to be amazing, amazing, and really, really good stuff. Oh, and Tommy. And Tommy's eating a cheese board with Jennifer Mackey and waiting for our Poima Pinot Noir. That's awesome. That's sweet. Phil says some of his best days in his life have been in Santa Barbara, hanging out and drinking. Yes, rosé this evening, rosé all day, rosé all night. It's a beautiful thing. An old-fashioned Keith Jackson, congratulations. That's one of the most classic cocktails. I would assume if I didn't know where you were, I would assume you were in Wisconsin. Wisconsinites, highest per capita drinking in the United States, highest per capita bars in the United States, highest per capita binge drinking in the United States. And they consume 50% of the domestically produced brandy. Wisconsin, I freaking love you, except for the Green Bay Packers. But you know what my 49ers did to you twice this year? Sorry for the look on Aaron Rodgers' face. We'll see you next year. Ooh, did I say that out loud? I didn't really mean to. And the origin of the word quarantine, after you mentioned it, looks like it comes from mid-17th century from Italian quarantina, 40 days. Yes, actually, the 40 days refers to, and yeah, Courant France is a complete trope. I apologize. It was actually the law during the Black Plague, I believe, in Venice, Italy. When the ships came in, there was a 40-day quarantine, so quarantina. You're absolutely correct, Jennifer. Well done. I'm pretty sure I actually looked that up. I can't remember how my brain remembers this thing, but I think it's basically the tequila opening up brain cells and allowing me to remember this stuff. What do you consider the best value in single malt Scotch? Not even an issue. To go straight to Highland Park 12. I believe on Delmar 12 is actually quite good too as a blended, but I would say that the Highland Park 12 as a single malt, the Highland Park 12 is absolutely my favorite Scotch. Interesting. I don't like peat in Scotch. I don't like Islay Scotches. I don't like lowland Scotches. I like Scotches made with trees to burn and fire the stills. Highland Scotch is my vibe. Love it. Speyside is also quite good as well. I will always say that my favorite Scotches generally are Highland Scotches, and Highland Park generally is my favorite single malt. But that being said, Speyburn, which is a Kirkland brand, it's not Kirkland Scotch, is you can get a handle of Speyburn. I think it's either 7. I think it's Speyburn 7. So the earlier you drink a Scotch, the more it represents the place where it's grown. The old Scotch, the more it's going to be mellow, and you're going to have no idea where it's from. So if you want a Scotch that tastes the place where it's from, 7 to 12 years is always where you want to go. 15, 17, 18 years, that Scotch is going to be about honest and not about a sense of place. So I love 7 to 12 year Scotches, basically from Speyside and the Highland areas. Good stuff. All right, let me get all the way to the bottom here. No, I agree, Tammy Heron. Why? Because it tastes like it's corked. Here's this though. I love Tobala Mezcal. So is honestly one of the smokiest mezcals ever made. But I love the smokiness and the funkiness of a Tobala, which comes from these beautiful little mountain megas, these beautiful little, and you can't, they're not actually domesticated. So it's sort of like going on a vision quest to find your peyote. You walk in, you pick these cacti and you put them in your backpack and you bring them back and you turn them into the most expensive mezcal in the world. Unbelievable. Rob Huttenhoff, good to see you, brother. You bought some Report. That's awesome. You get a 10% discount when you order it with the that I gave you guys. Awesome. We got Phil. Phil's in a white wine mood today. He's got an Axis Mundi Grenache Blanc. Only Grenache Blanc and definitely best Grenache Blanc. Fragrant and rich, drinking beauty. I hope it's not cloudy because I did not cold stabilize that. I stumbled across an old post of yours on Reddit. Were you ever successful making Zin in a Burgundy? Yes. In fact, I will actually show you if I can find one. Nope. We drank it last night. This is actually producing out of Paso Robles Highlands District right now, 17.9% alcohol. And if that is not a more, I don't want to say Zin can ever be in a Burgundy because there's no such thing as Zin. There's nothing like Zin. The closest thing that was ever in Zin was in 1394. Because in 1395, Duke Philip the Bold, Duke, kicked every red grape out of Burgundy except Pinot Noir on the threat of execution. The Edict of 1395 was a law edict that basically said if it's red and it's in Burgundy between Martinique and it's not Pinot Noir, we will chop your head off. So saying Zin can be produced in a Burgundian style is sort of a little weird. Honest. So I will say, can I make Zin in an elegant and restrained style? Does it show more crushed raspberry and spice? Those big porty sort of overdone Zins in Paso? I really think so. I love it. Good questions tonight. We're having a good night. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself because it has nothing to do with all the tequila flowing through strange bloodstream. Marla, I will direct message my shipping address because whatever my house is basically the difference in my day. Every do I finally deliver my handle of Sapphire? I sure hope so because I need a gin and tonic. Yes, next Tuesday is smile. I originally thought maybe we'd do Mexican lagers at the end of our tasting on the 5th. Maybe we still will, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to do tequila mezcal on the weekend of Cinco de Mayo. And we'll also talk about de Mayo is only a sort of a holiday that matters to people who drink, and Mexicans have really no interest in some totally obscure victory against the French army. It was basically invented by Corona. And we have now been reinvented by Corona, so maybe it'd be a good time to talk about it. I think that was a fun thing. Mineral Wisconsin, we have 7 bars for 2,000 people. And I don't know if you know, in Wisconsin, there's no age that you can or can't go into a bar. If your dad takes you into a bar and you're like 7, you're on a bar stool, rock and roll, baby. And I'm sorry, Michelle, saying my audio is stuttering again, and I apologize. Reset of both my computer and internet, so I apologize. And is in the house, so welcome, so glad you're here. And Herman Skurnick in the house? No way. Herman Skurnick is great heroes in New York wine. He actually probably has the best book in New York. Harmon, if you're actually watching me, how stoked I'm to have the pleasure of being sort of remotely with you. I hope you're well. I hope you're food. I hope you're drinking good wine. Obviously, you're drinking good wine. We're having a little 2018 Pinot Noir, and it's a beautiful, like long time vintage that shows a lot of character, a lot of flavor, a lot of intensity, a lot of fruit, a lot of persistence. I hate to taste this wine in 5 years because I'm young wines, but having a wine that shows a little bit on it too is absolutely spectacular. Okay, we are resetting. What I'm probably going to do right, I'm going to run you through. I mentioned winemaking technology. We ran through the top 6 of 10. We're going to do the last 4 plus honorable mentions. As I mentioned before, my number invention in the wine industry was sulfide, which was again. Oh, no. Got a little issue. Hold on one second. I need to go live again on Instagram because it cut me off, probably because I went full hour because I can't stop. Give me 1 second. In fact, screw it. We'll just. Okay, so plus. I fully apologize. Cancel. You know what? Because I don't know too much about Instagram Go, because you were my people before the Instagram were my people. So hopefully they're going to come on to the 5. And if they don't, I'll make sure I understand how this happened. We started at 5 o'clock every night instead of at 6. I got about a couple more minutes talking a little bit about. We had SO2. We had the clay vessels for fermentation. We had seed from the Phoenicians and the Canaanites. We had the barrels of the 1st century Common Era Gauls. We had compound Leeuwenhoek and Pasteur in the development of germ theory, Prohibition, and UC Davis, Amorin, and Winkler. So, okay, number 10, top 10 wine technologies that have changed the world. Wine lab analysis. So we have the scientific ability right now to test free and total sulfur dioxide, the pH of a wine, the TA, the assimilable nitrogen, which is going to affect the way that we ferment and how much yeast food we're going to give a wine, hydrogen sulfur, to know if the wine is reduced and it's going to smell, bottle it, and we have trials, and all these wonderful things that we do to a wine and put it in bottle. So science and accumulation of science, the accumulation of labs, and having in-house wine laboratories like we do at the Miller Family Wine Company, that is going to be huge to making sure that the wines bottle so they arrive to you in perfect drinkable condition and that they make you happy. So analysis for me is number 7. Number 8, stainless. Number 8 is enox, the way that the French or many people in Europe would basically pronounce it. And not only stainless steel tanks, which are easy to keep sanitary and to keep germ free, so it doesn't affect the wine with anything. But stainless steel tanks in the world also have jackets on them. These jackets enable us to warm up the tank. Almost all the jackets in the wine industry help us cool down the wine. So keeping a wine in tank, we can keep it at low temperature, minimize oxidation, minimize the wine chain, and to make sure that the wine, as the tank and waits for bottling, is in an absolute place. So stainless steel, jacketed stainless tanks makes our lives so much easier. Number 9, the ozone machine. There are machines that actually create ozone that we in the winery. And matter because ozone is a chemical-free sterilant. So, okay, you sterilize a tank. You want to sterilize your wine, your winery floor. You want to sterilize something you're going to put into the wine. You have a couple options. You can dip it and try and then dip it in citric acid and then rinse it. And now you've used citric acid and phosphate and it's going into the drain, into the environment. Or you can hook it up $1,000 into a basically hose basically with a pistol. So you basically sprayer, and anything that sprayer hits, O3 hits it, loses an molecule, sterilizes it, and what is released as a result of your sterilization in chemicals being released, you're releasing oxygen. So it's very important. I looked up when the ozone generation machine actually was invented, 1896. We had ozone in 86. It became de rigueur in modern winemaking production in the 90s because the technology, plain ozone and a couple other companies that are making ozone for the wine industry, we got those machines and they became reasonably affordable. What I found, really, wineries that are willing to spend extra money are finding that ozone is an amazing technology. So ozone, why? We spray anything we put wine in, and we know when the wine touches it, it is sterile and it's not going to mess up the wine. It's a microbial problem into the wine. So yay, ozone. Reduces chemicals, increases cleanliness. Ozone is a game changer. If I thought about one thing that has changed wine in 20 to 30 years, ozone would be the first thing. And then number 10, non-traditional closers. Screw cork. Hate it. If you're putting natural wine, I want to have a conversation with you. I would suggest that between 15 and 5% of wines under natural cork are changed as a result of the contact with that natural cork. 50% are with a chemical called trichloroanisole that happens as a result of bleach somehow in the cork, which seems like, could they stop? Still, 2% of all natural corks are cause the wine to smell like basement or a musty book or basically some type of kind of funk, a chlorine funk. Now, there's a couple ways to stop it. There's clippers, which you have to apply by hand on a bottle. You've got a screw cap, the Stelvin screw cap, which I think is fantastic. If I could snap my fingers a bottle of wine in the world under a screw cap, I would. You may not know that, let's see, what is it? Penfolds has been putting the grain under screw caps, I think, since 1956. That's how screw cap affects the aging. Rothschild is the only first growth wine that I know of that I believe has been putting their wines experimentally under. And supposedly this year is what I originally, they were going to assess the ageability of first growth cap and started putting a $2,000 bottle of wine under a screw cap. I mean, just to let you know, I had a Chateau Cheval Blanc from 1986 that I was given for a gift. I took that anniversary gift to a restaurant. It was a wine that was worth almost two big house payments, 2 monthly house payments for my beautiful home in California. That's wine cost. Opened it, cork bad. There was a $4,000 bottle of wine ruined, right? So now, if 2% are showing 3 parts per trillion drop of pure trichloroanisole, the chemical that corky aroma, 1 drop in an Olympic-sized swimming would make that water smell corky. 3 parts per trillion ruin a wine. 2% are at 3 parts. How many bottles are at half a part? Because part per trillion chloroanisole changes a wine's character. My feeling is somewhere around 8% of all wines in the world are negatively in natural cork that are under natural cork. So let's start screw cap. If you have the capacity to use glass closure is great. But screw cap, DM cork, all this stuff is really, really the way to go. I've had honorable mention, glass wine bottle, cross flow, look it up. It's pretty important stuff. And then pump to make sure you can move wine from one place to another, because that's too. And the bulldog pup, which is actually pulls clean wine out of a barrel while leaving the sediment and the leaves behind. Those are the things that really drive my imagination in wine. We're on 6 o'clock. I promised my director of marketing that I would be a little more timely in these. So I'm going to close now and say how to have all of you here. Thank you for sharing this. I've had a fantastic time with all of you. Drinking wine, having some spirits, drinking a beer. This has been fantastic. So I always close the same. Make sure to respect the doctors, PAs, and nurses by staying home. You don't really need to get out. You have a very safe time. It's a difficult time. Make sure to love you're with, love the one you're with. If you can't be with the one you were that you love the one you're with, and then think of someone in your community, think family, and think of someone in your social circle that needs some. Reach out to them and make sure they're fine. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night. I'll be here on 5. You can't stop me day drinking. Here we go, and loving every moment of it. I hope you guys had a good time, and we will see each other.